My 14-year-old daughter's stomach was bloated, and when I took her to the doctor for a checkup, it was discovered that she is pregnant. One night I slept in my daughter's bed instead of her. Then that night I came to know that my daughter's. You will be shocked to hear the true story of a village in Punjab where even a 14-year-old girl was not spared. Men and boys of any age do such disgusting things with girls just to satisfy their own desires, which will make your soul shudder to hear. My 14-year-old daughter's stomach started to bloat and I was scared, not knowing what was happening. My daughter-in-law suggested that we get it checked, and I was worried that something would not happen that would cause people to shame us. When I went to the doctor, he immediately said that your daughter is pregnant and has been for about 5 months. Upon hearing this, I was shocked. When I saw Tanu, there was nothing on her face that indicated that something had happened to her. I could not tell from her expression that anything had been done to her. I started keeping my daughter hidden from everyone because if anyone found out, our lives would become difficult. I had also told my daughter-in-law not to tell anyone about this. We needed to find a solution quickly because this situation was not sustainable. My daughter-in-law understood my concern and promised not to tell anyone about Tanu's situation. I was always afraid for my child. One day I put my daughter to sleep in the storage room and slept in her room myself, so I could find out who came and went from the room, or if someone has done something outside. I had only spent a few moments lying on her bed when I heard footsteps and was shocked to discover that it was not someone else doing these things to my daughter, but someone who was related to her. My name is Suman. I was 21 years old when I got married and came to my husband's house. I had 2 children. The first one was a boy who was born immediately after the wedding. I really wanted a daughter. I wanted to lift her tantrums, talk to her. I did not have a daughter, and my husband had told me many times that it is God's gift. Why do you get upset? If it is destined for us to have a daughter, we will have one. Otherwise, whatever God wills, there is always some hidden meaning in everything. It could be for our own good. Learn to have faith in Him. Whenever I mentioned a daughter, my husband would explain this to me in the same way. I had begged for a second child. God had listened to my prayers and I became pregnant. At that time, my son was 16 years old. It was strange to hear the news of a second child after having such a grown-up first child, but I was happy. My son would now have a sister. 9 months had passed with great difficulty for me. During the second month, a fire broke out in our house. Then my husband had an accident. In this way, some or the other incident kept happening throughout the 9 months. Everyone outside said that this child is a bad omen, but I believe that it was just a game of fate. Nothing happens because of it, nor does any child or human being born under it. The people of the village had old-fashioned thinking, so everything seemed wrong to them. I had completed 9 months of pregnancy. The doctor gave my husband hope and came to the operation theatre. It was a difficult time for my husband. My child was born, and when my husband gave me the news, I could not believe it. I was very happy that God had given me a daughter. My prayer was answered. I came home in 2 days. Naman took very good care of his sister, but whenever he came back from school, he seemed to be lost in thought. I asked him many times, "What's wrong, son?" He said that the kids at school tease him, saying that he is now 16 years old and his parents have just had a daughter. We often beat or scold our children for such things, but children understand almost everything. Our times were different. Today's children have so many problems that they become victims of depression. When Naman told me this, For a moment, I trembled because I did not have anything to tell my son. Then, after thinking, I told him that, son, this is God's gift and you should be happy. You have a sister with whom you can share all your joys and sorrows when she grows up. I explained to him that if your father and I are not in this world tomorrow and you are alone, you can share your pain with her. She won't tell anything to anyone and will take care of you just like I do. Brothers are very dear to their sisters. Naman became tension-free, which means that he understood my words. We all loved Tanu very much. She was becoming more beautiful day by day. When Tanu was 11 years old, she got a fever. We tried a lot of treatments, but she did not get any relief. Then we went to a very old woman in the village. When she saw Tanu, she said to us, "Keep her hidden. One day your daughter will be ruined by someone close to you. This will embarrass you in front of the world." My husband was with me at that time. He immediately took Tanu and me home. He scolded me a lot for taking our daughter to different people. After hearing the words of that old woman, I was scared for my daughter's fate. Those were the days when she had to go to school and study. After hearing this, I did not let her go to school and kept her at home. My husband scolded me a lot about this, but I did not budge. Tanu had become sensible by then. She was 13 years old. She started going out to play, and when she came back home, she would cry for hours because everyone outside teased her that she was illiterate. I understood my daughter's pain, but as a mother, I did not know what to do. Naman also argued with me, saying that I was wrong. He said he would pick up his sister from school and take care of her, but I refused. Naman was now 25 years old. He was a grown man and worked in a big office. Many marriage proposals had come for him, but to me, he still seemed like a little Naman. Relatives told me to get him married soon, or else he might secretly get married in the city without telling us. I was scared when I heard this, so I started looking for marriage proposals for him. When Naman found out, he said, "Mother, whenever you say and wherever you say, I will get married." My husband's health had started deteriorating. Naman's marriage was fixed with an illiterate girl from the village. When I objected, my husband said he had given his word and the girl is good. She will respect our honor and keep Naman happy. What are you afraid of? Tanu was very happy to hear about her brother's marriage. At that time, Tanu was 13 years old when we got Naman married and brought Sonam home as our daughter-in-law. Sonam had already won everyone's heart within the first 3 months of marriage. Tanu loved her brother and sister-in-law very much. Even after marriage, Naman gave Tanu more time, just like he used to before marriage. Sonam had no problem with this, but I could read it on her face. I explained to Naman that he should be mindful of this and make sure that his wife and sister don't have any issues. You give Tanu more time than Sonam, which should not be the case. It had been 7 months since their marriage, and I noticed that my daughter-in-law would often visit her parents' house 2 to 3 weeks a village, which I did not like. I tried to persuade her not to do that, but she said that the advantage of getting married in the same village is that you can visit your parents whenever you want. Her words surprised me. I was no longer comfortable talking to her. I felt like I was overthinking things. One day there was a function at someone's house in the neighborhood. So I went there and a woman said to me, "Why does your daughter-in-law Sonam go to the headman's house? Don't you know how dangerous he is? His terror is all over the village." I was scared after hearing this because my daughter-in-law never told me that she used to go to the headman's house. Even after coming home, I kept thinking about it but did not get any answer. Tanu also started to become quiet these days. Her complexion had turned yellow and I was worried seeing her. I wanted to take her to the doctor, but my daughter-in-law stopped me and said, "Let me feed my sister-in-law for a few days and see how Tanu gets better." Sonam had been feeding Tanu nutritious food for the past 7 days, but she was becoming dry and thorny day by day. Sonam asked me to take her to her house so that she could feel better. I also gave her permission to take the girl with her. Tanu was very beautiful, but now no one could tell by looking at her that she was the same old Tanu. The days were passing and there was no improvement in her condition. I talked to my husband many times and he said, "Let's take her to the city the day Naman comes home." Naman started coming home after 10 days. Maybe his workload had increased at the office. Tanu's birthday was coming up. She was going to turn 14. There was still 1.5 months left for her birthday. My husband and I were very happy. But Tanu was not as happy as before on her birthday. She became a bit quiet. Many times I saw my daughter-in-law take her to the storeroom and come out after a long time. One day when I asked her, she said, "I show her old things to keep her occupied." My heart was always anxious. Tanu's belly was getting bigger. It looked like she was carrying a 7 or 8 month pregnancy. Seeing Tanu's bloated belly, I got scared and told my daughter-in-law that something was wrong with the child, as she often took her home. Then she told me that I was accusing her. Since the day she arrived in this house, she had treated her as her own sister. I warned her not to tell anyone about it. When I asked Tanu, she just kept looking without giving any answers. If this matter were to spread outside the house, then who knows what kind of insult we would face in the entire village. My husband would blame me and say that all of this had happened because of my carelessness. After that night, both my daughter-in-law and I took Tanu to the doctor, and as soon as the doctor saw her, she said that she was pregnant and would give birth to a child in about a month. I was devastated after hearing this news. I asked the doctor to do the test once, and she got angry. "Do you not believe me? Who is the doctor here, you or me? I told you that your daughter is pregnant. You did not pay attention at first, and when children behave like this, you call the doctor a liar." After saying this, the doctor left. I sat there holding my head. After that, we went home and kept Tanu mostly in her room. Whenever Naman and my husband asked about her, I lied to them and told them that she had gone to stay with her aunt and would return in a few days. My daughter-in-law was very happy because Naman was going to take her to the city. He told me, "Now my livelihood is not the same. I will take Sonam with me to the city. I will keep coming to meet you after a few days." I was crying because my son was living separately with his wife and I did not know whose evil eye had fallen on my beautiful little daughter that she got pregnant at such a young age. I asked Tanu the truth many times, but she just listened with her mind and did not say anything. I was very worried. That day, while laying down to sleep, I suddenly remembered that old woman who had once comforted Tanu when she had a fever and had advised us to keep our daughter hidden. The next day, I went to that old woman's place, hoping she could help me and somehow get Tanu out of this difficult situation. But when I arrived at her address, I found out that she had already gone to another village. I told my daughter-in-law to take me to the doctor. Maybe he could help us. When Sonam and I went to the doctor, he refused to abort my daughter's child, saying that it was illegal and dangerous for my daughter's life as she was still very young. I came home in a distressed state, not knowing where to seek happiness for my daughter. I prayed to God again and again while crying. That day I went to meet that old woman again, and by God's grace I easily found her in another village. When I told her the whole story, she gave me a medicine to give to the girl and told me to sleep with the girl on her bed. "You will find out how your daughter got pregnant," she said. "I had told you a few years ago to take care of the girl, but you did not listen to me. Now you are paying for it, aren't you?" I came home, gave medicine to Tanu, put her to sleep in storeroom, and slept on her bed myself. Half the night had passed, and I was worried about Tanu's health. If anyone finds out, what will happen? And tomorrow the son and daughter-in-law will also go to the city. I was lost in these thoughts when I heard footsteps in the room. I had just fallen asleep when smoke started filling up the room after a few minutes, which immediately woke me up. I wondered who could be in this room at that time of the night. But as soon as I got up, I was shocked because there was no one else in the room but rather Sonam, Tanu's sister-in-law. She got scared seeing me. When I turned on the light, I noticed that she had something sweet in her hand. I asked her angrily what she was doing in Tanu's room and what was this smoke all about. She did not say anything in response, but I knew that Sonam was the reason behind Tanu's condition. Hearing my voice, Naman and my husband also came there. As soon as my son arrived, he opened the windows to let the smoke out. I told Sonam to tell me the truth, otherwise I would kick her out of the house right away. What were you doing with Tanu? Naman and my husband were surprised and asked me what had happened to me and why she would do such a thing. I made both of them quiet and said Sonam to tell me the truth. Otherwise, I would tell your parents about your misdeeds. As soon as Sonam heard this, she started saying that I am responsible for Tanu's condition. Upon hearing this, the ground beneath my feet seemed to vanish. She was burning with envy at the beauty of our daughter. She used to go to the headman's house every day to get medicine, and every night she used to smoke in her room, which would make Tanu sick. Naman got very angry upon hearing this and asked about Tanu, and I told him she was in the storeroom. When he brought her sister back, he was scared to see her bloated stomach, but he knew what his wife had done. She destroyed the life of my innocent child. Naman immediately kicked Sonam out of the house, and the next morning I took my daughter to the hospital with my son. The doctor said that something poisonous was being given to your child which caused her body to bloat. But don't worry, your daughter will be fine. My husband thought that all this has happened because of him. If he had not made her the daughter-in-law of the house, then his daughter would have been fine today. Tanu had been undergoing treatment for 2 months, and I went to that doctor who had misdiagnosed my daughter without conducting any tests, and I scolded him well, telling him that people's lives are ruined because of doctors like you. If you had done all the tests, maybe my child's condition would not have been like this. The doctor apologized to me. Tanu had passed through her condition, which had an impact on her mind. She did not talk to anyone. I had continued Tanu's treatment with that old woman as well. My daughter-in-law's jealousy had blinded her so much that she could not see the innocence of my daughter, and she could not even realize what harm a 14-year-old could do to her. She used to call her sister-in-law. My husband and I had forgiven our daughter-in-law, but my son was not ready to forgive her. His sister had endured so much pain because of his wife. Jealousy consumes a person. Every person gets what they strive for, and love has to be earned. Thank you, friends.